Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. I hope you're all sitting comfortably. And I am indeed Miquel Llobera, also known as Fettle Feign, and I have yet to attain omnipresent super intergalactic oneness. But I'm nearly there, folks. I'm nearly there. And so are all of you, especially if you're listening to this, be it now live on Critical Mass Radio through Power Talk or at some later date through podcast. If so, then thank you for downloading the podcast. But however you're listening to it tonight, I know for a fact that the fact that you are listening to it means you are ever so close to attaining omnipresent super intergalactic oneness. So, pat on the back to you. All right then, ladies and gentlemen. As usual, I'd like to start off the show by saying anything and everything said in this show, all opinions that are expressed in this show, are solely my opinions, and not necessarily the opinions shared by fellow hosts or Critical Mass Radio as a whole. So if I do say anything that offends you, bugger off. You shouldn't be listening, especially if you're easily offended. And at the end of the day, as I've always said time and time again, and I always will continue to say time and time again, offence starts and begins within. If you're offended by something, it's probably something that's to do with you. Some psychological quirk or some other such feeling that begins within. So, if you'd like to call into the show, please do. I encourage it. As usual, I don't have any particular topic to talk to about today. Well, that's a bit of a lie, actually. There is one particular thing I hope I'm going to get somebody on the show to talk about later. But I'll go into that in a bit. So if you want to call in, please do. I encourage it. I will be keeping an eye out on the talk studio to see any calls coming through. If you just want to say hi, something particular you want to talk about, anything you want to question me about, just a general chit-chat, or just say hi to Mum. It's all good to me. If you do want to contact me through email, you can contact me at peaceofmind. Peaceofmind at criticalmassradio.co.uk. That's right. That's peaceofmind at criticalmassradio.co.uk. So don't be shy. I know I'm not. So I don't see why you should be either. Right, so I'm going to kick off the show today with a tune that is in line with what I'm going to be talking about, hopefully, with my guest, if I can get him on later.
Alrighty then.
You're listening to Critical Mass Radio. This is Peace of Mind. Me, your host, Miquel Llobera.
But I am here to attain omnipresent supergalactic oneness.
How many people in this country still wear the silent triangle? How many still refuse to speak? That's the question, isn't it? That's the question I'll be asking of my guest speaker tonight, should he come on. By the way, he is, you will all know him as World Change 2 in the chat rooms, known to me as Terry. Oh, by the way, if you want to call into the show and you're having trouble using the buttons and such on the webpage, Critical Mass Radio Station webpage, what you can do is contact me via Skype, get me to add you to my Skype's friend list, which I will do happily. Do not try to call me directly. My name is Fettle Feign, all one word, case letters, as spelt in the chat room. Drop me a text, drop me an invite, let me know that you contacted me through Critical Mass Radio, and if you want to come on to the show, call in through that medium, I'll bring you in as a conference call so you can have a chat. So yeah, the silent triangle. This is it. This is the key. I won't harp on about it because I'll save that until my guest can come on, Terry come on, because he has a very, very, very interesting story to tell. Very, very interesting story to tell. Apparently, I'm breaking up and people can hardly hear me. Is that the case? Let me know, chat room. Let me know. Am I breaking up horribly? Are you struggling to understand what I'm saying? But there again, Paul has been having problems with his internet, so it could be his side of the line rather than mine. Mind you, it might not be. So let me know, folks, in the chat room if you're also having trouble hearing me. I'm breaking up. Please do let me know. I'll try to rectify it. You can hear me just fading out slightly occasionally, but you can still hear me. Right. Well, I'll just make a quick adjustment on my microphone settings just to try and rectify the situation. Right. I've turned the volume up there, so that's usually a lot louder than is warranted. So if you can't hear me now, then I'm in big trouble. Right, yeah. Lost the thread of what I was going to say then. Doesn't matter. I shall put on some more music and then regather up the thread so I can make a ball of twine of interest that all who listen may follow with avid interest. So, yeah, it's been a bit of an eventful weekend. It was for me. I actually did some hard work, believe it or not. Yeah. I went to this Saturday just past. I went to a place called the Middlewood Charitable Trust, which is up here in Lancashire. I'm not sure if it's Lancashire actually, if it's just over in the border into Yorkshire, this area anyway. And you can, if you Google it, Middlewood Trust, it'll be the first option you come to. Have a look, and it's basically a centre for learning alternative ways of living, alternative energy, permaculture, building techniques for things such as earthships, yurts, sustainable, environmentally friendly living, and it's fantastic, really. Wonderful people, wonderful thing that they've got going there. They have volunteer weekends, most weekends, and to be honest, there's always somebody there. There's a chap who lives there called Bambi, who built his house down there, and it's got a turf roof, and it just looks like it's part of the land itself, like it just grew out of the ground. It's a wonderful, wonderful little building. There's always somebody there, and there's always jobs that need doing. So if you ever want to go down there, just go to their website, get the address, trundle on down there yourself or with a group, and there'll always be something there you can help out with. They do volunteer weekends. Most weekends, I think it's every weekend. This weekend what we were doing was I was helping them build the foundation for a battery shed. And what I mean by battery shed is that they have a wind turbine up there on the fell, and one of two. And what they were essentially building was a shed to house the battery, but also to leave enough room so that tour groups that come could gather around and they could explain the process of generating power, storing it, and best to use it. And we went there. There was a few people who turned up for the volunteer work. I was there digging off because it was soaked. It was absolutely, it wasn't raining at the time, but it had been raining in previous days, and what they'd started on, the big pool of water had collected. So the first job was to dig a runoff trench to drain all the water off in this thick clay, boggy mud that you wouldn't believe, and then using tyres in an earthship style with compact dirt in the inside, we laid down a layer of that and then tarpaulin over the top. And it's hard work, but it was good. And the camaraderie was fantastic. The conversations were jovial, light-hearted, also at times deep and educational. It was honestly like I'd known them forever. It's like I'd known them for a long time, and it wasn't like I'd just met them for the first time. And unfortunately, I had planned to interview at least one or two of them there, but I got that into what I was doing, and I got that into the day and the experience of what was happening, that I completely forgot to interview anybody. So watch this space. I do promise I will have an interview with one or more of the people down there at the Middle Trust for next show. I'm going to aim for next show. But it was fantastic. I really enjoyed my time, and I woke up the next day with aching from head to toe, which I haven't done in probably 2 years. Probably the better part of 2 years since I've worked that hard. And it felt good, to be honest. It did feel good. I've been spending a lot of time inside, not really doing anything, as I say, because I've disconnected myself from the outside world. A lot. I've not really been following what's been going on in the news because I don't want to really give my energy to it. I've been trying to focus my energy on positive things that have been happening. In a way, it's almost become it's quite hard not to slip into a lethargia, into a sort of hermetic lethargia, shall we say, hermitage. Hermetic lethargia. That's a good term there. Don't know if anybody's coined it before, but if not, I just did. Right, well, my guest has logged on to Skype. So, if you possibly give me 2 seconds, I shall try and get him on. I'll try and get him on. I do apologise if I'm breaking up. I don't know why it's doing that. I did do a sound test before I started. Now, it could just be because my Skype's being a silly bugger, but I don't know. No, it's difficult because I'm looking at my Skype options now, and it seems like it's picking me up quite well. So, just figured it out. My chair that I'm sitting on was pressing down on the internet cable going to the back of my computer. And believe it or not, that makes a difference. That really does make a difference. It's like standing on a water hose. It will stem the flow. I don't know how it does it, because at the end of the day, as long as the wires are touching, I don't know why it does that. But it does do it. Right. If you give me 2 seconds, I'll see if I can get my guest on. So just chat amongst yourselves while I. Right. So, just for a moment, can you introduce yourself to everybody listening right now?
Hello, everybody. I didn't realise we were on air. I'm Well Change. My name's Terry. I'm a good friend of Mel, and hello, everyone.
Cool. Right. Now, the reason I brought you on, Terry, and we'll go into that now. I'll just briefly tell the listeners. Terry was on the bus the other week, and the bus got pulled over for a routine ticket stop. And the events that unfolded were, as Terry described it to me, sounded like something out of 1930s Germany. So, without further ado, I'm going to allow Terry to explain in his own words exactly what happened. Go ahead, Terry. The floor is yours.
I was travelling on a bus from Liverpool to the Wirral. It passed through the tunnel. As it come out the tunnel, it got to a sort of checkpoint with a police van parked up alongside it and several inspectors checking the bus. An inspector boarded the bus. The bus was pulled over. There was a double-decker bus, and the bus was pulled over for a few minutes, not going anywhere. And then I noticed the inspector come upstairs and was checking tickets, and he was moving down the bus, scrutinising the details of everybody's ticket in a military fashion. It was quite surreal to watch. And the one thing that I noticed was nobody seemed to bat an eyelid of what it was. Just total acceptance that this type of thing was happening. Nobody seemed to raise an eyebrow. And as I was watching this thing, I sort of had visions of the guy saying something different than what he was actually saying. It was more like he was just asking people to keep their heads down, and you believe, almost like in a fashion of like, you are a worker, your tickets are due for inspection. So it was along those lines, and this sort of unsettled me. So when the guy gets to me, I'm sort of at the back of the bus, and the bus is full. It's literally full. So the guy gets to me, he gets my ticket, and he's looking at it for about a good 20 seconds, literally going over every detail of the ticket. Me being me, I couldn't. I found it difficult to restrain from saying something. So I said to him, "Go on, you have a good look at that ticket, mate. You have a good scrutinise that ticket. Make sure it's legitimate. You have a good look at that." And with that, the guy sort of buffed his chest up and was like, who are you to say that to me, blah blah blah. And he went to say something, and I said, do me a favour. I said, get out my face and go and get on with your silly little job. To which the guy promptly marched down the bus, off the bus, and got two police officers and brought them back upstairs with him and said, we're throwing you off the bus. And I said to the police officers, well, what offence have I committed? I haven't committed an offence. And they said, well, this guy's saying that you've insulted him. And I said, I didn't insult him, and told him exactly what I did say. And then said again, you know, I haven't committed an offence, so you can't really throw me off a bus, because I haven't caused harm to anyone. So then he said, well, he has the right. The inspector, the Arriva inspector, has the right. If he doesn't want you on their bus, he can take you off the bus. So I thought, okay, fair enough. I'll just get off the bus. I got off the bus, and when I got off the bus, 5 police surrounded me, and a couple of more others inspectors, and I offered an explanation. It was along the lines to can you guys not see what's going on here, what this is about, and why I feel so passionately about this thing. One police officer said, he said to me, we're not interested in anything that you've got to say. I suppose you're part of some Occupy group. I said, well, what's that got to do with anything? And he said, my colleague's just going to take some details off you now. I said, is he under what offence have I committed? I haven't committed an offence, so why does he need my details? So his colleague asked me for my name and address and whatnot, and I said, am I obliged to do that? And he said, no, you're not. And I said, well, okay, thank you very much, and walked off. And that was basically it. I really wish with hindsight, I wish there was a lot more that I'd have said, and I wish that I'd have recorded the whole thing, because it was shocking. It's like the mentality. The thing that unsettled me more than anything is the hypnosis that these people find themselves under. They really believe that in some way they are doing a just cause. And if you were to analyze, like my girlfriend mentioned something to me, and she said about the how much were all the wages of these people to perform this little military checkpoint to find a fare dodger on a public bus, and clearly anybody that is fare dodging on a bus cannot afford a ticket in the first place. So it's like we are now entering. It appears that Great Britain, and for the most part the Western world, is now entering more and more so a military dictatorship, and more blindly something has to be done. The most unsettling part, like I said, was the fact that the people can't see it. That's the.
What did you see any? Did you manage to catch? I mean, you probably were involved in it. You know, I mean, you were involved in the moment. But was there any sign of anybody anywhere on the bus clocking on to what was going on, to what you?
Absolutely, there was a young guy and his girlfriend. He got on at that stop. And he said to me after I'd said something, the police are downstairs. And I was aware that the police were there. And he sort of looked at it. But again, no, people don't like to put their heads up, because then the flak sort of gets pointed in their direction, and that's the state that everybody's in. Everyone's in a state of fear, and if I say anything, that'll be me. And the guy, literally with me, I'd say I held the bus up for literally maybe a minute, maybe two maximum, whereas the inspector had held the bus up for, I don't know, about seven minutes or so. And he said, "Come on, just get out." The police was saying, "Just come on, get off the bus, holding the bus up." I said, "Me holding the bus up?" I said, "This checkpoint's just held the bus up. People are coming back from work." And it's the whole idea that people have become subservient to corrupt authority without question, and I don't know. I don't know how we're going to turn it around, because it seems that it's increasing, and at the same time, without getting too deep and philosophical, it seems that it's increasing, and it seems that the insanity within society is growing almost in parallel to the whole thing. It's like we're literally out of control. We're literally the suppression that is being imposed on the people is now manifesting in greater insanity within the people, and I don't know. I don't know where it ends. I don't know where we go.
It seems, I mean, no offence to sponsors, but it seems that police in Liverpool and the Wirral and Birkenhead and that area, they seem to have a bigger chip on the shoulder than the police. A mutual friend of yours and mine the other day, when he realised he'd missed his bail, chatted about that, but yeah, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. He said he rang the police to say, "Oh, I've missed bail." I forgot. I just genuinely forgot. And the first policeman he talked to was fine, no problem. And the second police who called scouts, proper power trip on. So he was going a real authority trip, a real power trip on him. There's absolutely no need to whatsoever. But it didn't shock you, did it? It shocked you on some levels, but it didn't shock you on others.
It wasn't much of a surprise or shock, because I don't really get shocked in that regard. It was disheartening more than anything. It was like to see the state of what we are as a species in all its glory right in that moment was like, It's like, well, what are we gonna do? Is there any hope whatsoever for mankind? That's the deeper way. That was the shocking, if you want to call it shocking. That was the most eyebrow raising moments. With like, there doesn't seem to be any hope. Doesn't seem to be any hope because we're so fragmented and so conditioned and so acceptant. I mean, what you've got to remember is the police themselves, even though that they believe themselves to be law enforcement officers, they're under hypnosis. They're part of the same hypnosis, but the level and magnitude of the hypnosis is startling. It's truly startling. It's like,
it's a shame you didn't. There was. Didn't think to get the recording. I mean, I've been in situations like that where afterwards you think, I wish I'd started recording that. I wish I'd had the camera or recorder on that. But I mean, when you told me, I suggested that if there was some way for us to know when they're going to be doing these checkpoints, these stop checks, to get a group of us, me, you, and everybody from as many people who wanted to come from CMR, just get a ticket, go through the tunnel to be stopped. So then there was a big group of us with recording equipment, and then see what they would do.
It would be beautiful. It would be a beautiful thing if that was the circumstances. Even that, Miquel, it's let's just say, for example, for argument's sake, because I wanted all the group of us, like the likes of George, Lee, me, you, everybody be there and everybody sort of record the thing. But in the context, we would still, because I can say this to you because we've been in several circumstances where we've tried to act in an honourable manner in front of the judicial system, and they have then used bullying tactics and then made it look like we are the perpetrators of dishonourable behaviour, when really the establishment were the perpetrators of dishonourable behaviour. So the whole thing is lost in a mire of upside downness, as far as what I can see. It's completely the reverse of what it should be. It's like these enforcement officers are so out of touch with the reality of what they're supposed to be enforcing. It's unbelievable. It really is unbelievable. I don't know how half of them have got jobs, and I'm convinced that now to become a police officer, they deliberately target people with as little empathy as possible, make ideal candidates to become police officers. That's the norm now.
They'll always pull on the same as well. They call it a non-detachment. The idea is, you can't get detached. You can't allow personal feelings to get in. So you've got to be detached from what it is that you're doing, and the same for doctors. They say, you've got to be detached from it. Now, to be honest with you, I don't think that's right. Especially police. I think police should have a sense of honour, and a sense.
Definitely.
And should pride themselves on that sense of honour, and because at the end of the day, justice is not something that can be written down in black and white. It's something that is.
But the other side of that coin as well, which I can sort of see from their perspective, and I'm not making excuses for the police force. I'm just trying to look at it with a balanced view. Is the fact that most of the people out there within society are, for want of a better word, they're brain dead zombies. So there's people that find it difficult to communicate with I'd say 90% of the people that police officers come into contact with abusive towards police officers, or have a hatred towards police officers, and then act in a certain way. So then the police officer becomes thick-skinned as such, and then wrongly then acts around the premise of the fact that everybody's a scumbag, because basically it's all to see every day as scumbags, and they interact with every day as scumbags. So then they become, anyone that challenges their position must be by definition in their heads scumbag, and that's, I mean, I don't know where do you go from there? How do you change that, and how do you and is there a solution to that? Are we that far out of control where human annihilation seems the only the only cleansing pad, if you like, a thermonuclear war, going towards annihilation of one another, because we're that fragmented that we've lost touch with the fact that we're brothers? Because what you've got to remember, these people were born. They were born out of somebody. They're somebody's son or somebody's daughter. Just because they don a uniform and then act in a particular way, it's like a paedophile or a rapist or a murderer. All these people that act unconsciously because of a set of circumstances that produce them to behave that way in that moment in time. So I don't. It's deeper roots, and it's all part. Without rambling on too much, it's all part of who we are. We're all connected to it, but I don't know, unless people can begin to see past the game, past the theatre of the whole thing, and just learn to let go of ego, or learn to let go of these illusionary divisions amongst us all. There doesn't seem to be much hope. There doesn't seem to be much hope for mankind in general.
A lot of it, what I believe, is paralysis of fear.
Yeah.
I understand that there's something wrong. I might even know what's wrong, even to quite a high detail, without ever, without ever having watched a documentary or gone to a lawful rebellion site, but just actually come to those conclusions. But by coming to those conclusions and by seeing it, have paralysed themselves in a state of fear, and that fear has stopped them from speaking out.
That's it. So they act in the persona, the appropriate. Funny enough, I was talking to Sharon about this today. I noticed the amount of hooded youths around this area, and they all walk around they look like the Grim Reaper, and some of them deliberately cover the whole face and the whole, and it's like they become the norm as to become around here anyway, as to look intimidating. But to me, whenever I see anybody go past like that, I look directly at them as the fact that I can see through that illusion. It's like an illusion to me. And but the whole that within inside that they were somebody's, and that persona and that projection that they project is fear based. So they see somebody else that maybe they think, well, he looks intimidating, I've got to be like that, and I've got to look intimidating, otherwise I'm going to get picked on. And that's where we're at. But the whole of society seems to be, in general, locked in a state of fear. And in order to escape the fear, it's become a bully or be bullied. And that's right the way up through the judicial system, through the armed forces, through your education system, through the corporate structure. It's the same thing. It's bully or be bullied. That's what we have drummed or have had drummed into us as a species, and that's the issue. I think in a wider sense has got to be addressed, and as how we address that, I have absolutely no idea. I have absolutely no idea how to begin to implement that, or where do you start with that? Where do we start with that?
Well, you start by being aware of it. So in this, we have started, at least. We've already begun. Well, I think we're getting. I think it's safe to say that we're reaching a stage where we could say that we are at the end of the beginning. We're not at the beginning of the end, but we're definitely at the end of the beginning.
Aye. Or there is no beginning, no end. It's just infinite beginning. Infinite beginnings and cycles of ends and beginnings.
For this particular cycle, then, anyway.
Yeah. It's a shame. It's a shame for future generations. I mean, you're in the prime example of that now because you've got a young son. But what kind of planet? Relationships and structures are we building for future generations? Because as far as I can see, the government is not building anything that resembles a civilized society anywhere on this earth.
Yeah. I ask myself that question every day. In fact, I'm asking it more and more and more as time goes by. But fortunately, like with things like the middle worlds that I've come across and these things, the universe is opening small doors here and there to maybe not help allow me to change the world per se, but to be able to do as much positive within my life and the life of those people who I know and interact with. And I suppose if everybody did that, and this universe on that scale within lives as a whole, that would translate into...
That's the crux of it. That is the crux of it. Be the change and affect within the circles that you that are in close proximity to the self. Affect within those circles in the hope that if enough of us begin to see what's what and then act around that, then just maybe we stand a chance. We stand a chance as a species. Because if we don't, we don't, and there's no hope for, future generations will just be slaves. We'll just be slaves, conditioned, consume, and destroy the planet as they do.
Definitely. All right then, Terry. Well, thank you very much for coming on the show today. And on behalf of all my listeners as well as myself, thank you for standing up and not being silent, or having the courage to question, as I know you always do. But you don't get thanked for it enough. So, yeah, on air, future listeners on podcasts, I, from the bottom of my heart and all my listeners' hearts, we thank you very much for being the change and standing up.
Right, everybody question authority. My advice to anyone is humbly question authority as much as you can, because the authority is an illusion. It's a total illusion. It's illusion. The whole thing is an illusion. Right, everybody have a good night in there. Thanks for your time.
Speak to you soon, Terry.
Take it easy. All right.
Right, and that was Terry, also known as World Change in the chat rooms here at Critical Mass Radio. I hope you enjoyed listening to Terry there, although I'm sure it's the topic itself is enjoyable, and it's not exactly a good thing. I mean, I was quite shocked when I wasn't shocked. I was shocked, but I wasn't surprised, as Terry said. Things like that don't really surprise me anymore, but it still shocks me that I live in a world like that. And as Terry said, with my son now, every day I ask more and more the question over and over again, what kind of world have I brought my son into? And rather than look at the grand scheme of, because if you were to look at the world as a whole, you could find a million things that were wrong with the world. So how about I reduce the size of that world down to my own sphere of people who I know and who I can interact with, and the things that I can do as an individual with that group of people, and look for all the good within that particular small world. And if everybody did that, then the world as a whole would be a much better place. So anyway, here's to people who stand up. Here's to people who fight the fascist regime. Here's to people who do something about it. Viva la Quinta Brigada! Indeed, I agree with the chat room. You can't beat a good Irish ditty. Indeed. Honda 50 song. My little Honda 50, she's rapid and she's nifty. She'll do 150 on a windy day. Cracking song. Unfortunately, I did have it. Unfortunately, the house I was in that got raided had my CD in a CD player. Got smashed and trampled on all over the floor. They'd smashed the CD in the CD player with that CD in. So, but anyway, yeah, Viva la Quinta Brigada was a song sang about the brave men and women of the British Isles who sailed over to Catalonia to fight against Franco and the fascist regime that unfortunately existed until 1975, as late as 1975. Believe you me, that's that was how long ago fascism was obviously present within Europe, had an obvious face in Europe. In Spain, there were British people traveling to the Costa del Sol, having holidays, going to Benidorm, all that malarkey, under an obviously fascist dictatorship. Craziness. Right. Got a nice little, got a couple of good tunes later on in the show. However, I found this on YouTube some time ago, actually. Quite an inspiring video. But before I play this, actually, I've been told I must play this every show. So, and so must all the other hosts. So any other host listening now, you must play this on your show.
The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society. And we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings. We decided long ago that the dangers of excessive and unwarranted concealment of pertinent facts far outweighed the dangers which are cited to justify it. Even today, there is little value in opposing the threat of a closed society by imitating its arbitrary restrictions. Even today, there is little value in ensuring the survival of our nation if our traditions do not survive with it. And there is very grave danger that an announced need for increased security will be seized upon by those anxious to expand its meaning to the very limits of official censorship and concealment. That I do not intend to permit to the extent that it's in my control. And no official of my administration, whether his rank is high or low, civilian or military, should interpret my words here tonight as an excuse to censor the news, to stifle dissent, to cover up our mistakes, or to withhold from the press and the public the facts they deserve to know.
Don't let anybody make you think that God chose America as his divine, messianic force to be a sort of policeman of the whole world. God has a way of standing before the nations with judgment, and it seems that I can hear God saying to America, "You're too arrogant. You don't change your ways. I will rise up and break the backbone of your power, and I'll place it in the hands of a nation that doesn't even know my name. Be still and know that I'm God." The promises of the Great Society have been shot down on the battlefields of Vietnam, making the poor, white and Negro bear the heaviest burden both at the front and at home. Though the civil rights leaders, for various reasons, refuse or can't take a stand or have to go along with the administration, that's their business. But I'm afraid that I know that justice is indivisible. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere.
In the response and dedication of our citizens, whenever they are fully informed, I not only could not stifle controversy among your readers, I welcome it. this administration intends to be candid about its errors. For as a wise man once said, an error doesn't become a mistake until you refuse to correct it.
We made the wrong diagnosis. We should change the treatment. So we're not making progress there, and we should come home. The weapons weren't there, and we went in under UN resolutions, and our national security was not threatened. We're more threatened now by staying.
We intend to accept full responsibility for our errors, and we expect you to point them out when we miss them. Without debate, without criticism, no administration and no country can succeed, and no republic can survive. That is why the Athenian lawmaker Solon decreed it a crime for any citizen to shrink from controversy. And that is why our press is protected by the First Amendment, the only business in America specifically protected by the Constitution, not primarily to amuse and entertain, not to emphasize the trivial and the sentimental, not to simply give the public what it wants, but to inform, to arouse, to reflect, to state our dangers and our opportunities, to indicate our crises and our choices, to lead, mold, educate, and sometimes even anger public opinion. This means greater coverage and analysis of international news, for it is no longer far away and foreign, but close at hand and local. It means greater attention to improved understanding of the news, as well as improved transmission. And it means, finally, that government at all levels must meet its obligation to provide you with the fullest possible information outside the narrowest limits of national security. So it is to the printing press, to the recorder of man's deeds, the keeper of his conscience, the courier of his news, that we look for strength and assistance, confident that with your help, man will be what he was born to be, free and independent, free and independent, free and independent, free and independent.
I'm Ron Paul. I'm a congressman from Texas, serving in my 10th term. I am the champion of the Constitution. We now promote preemptive war. I do not believe that's part of the American tradition. We in the past have always declared war in the defense of our liberties or go to aid somebody. But now we have accepted the principle of preemptive war. We have rejected the just war theory of Christianity. And now, tonight, we hear that we're not even willing to remove from the table a preemptive nuclear strike against a country that has done no harm to us directly and is no threat to our national security. I mean, we have to come to our senses about this issue of war and preemption and go back to traditions and our Constitution and defend our liberties and defend our rights, but not to think that we can change the world by force of arms and to start war.
The people who say there will be a bloodbath are the ones who said it would be a cakewalk, it would be a slam dunk, and that it would be paid for by oil. Why believe them? They've been wrong on everything they've said. So why not ask the people who advise not to go into the region and into the war? The war has not gone well one bit. Yes, I would leave completely. Why leave the troops in the region? It was the fact that we had troops in Saudi Arabia was one of the three reasons given for the attack on 9/11. So why leave them in the region? They don't want our troops on the Arabian Peninsula. We have no need for our national security to have troops on the Arabian Peninsula. And going into Iraq and Afghanistan and threatening Iran is the worst thing we can do for our national security. I am less safe. The American people are less safe for this. It's the policy that is wrong. Tactical movements and shifting troops around and taking in 30 more and reducing by 5, totally irrelevant. We need a new foreign policy that said we ought to mind our own business, bring our troops home, defend this country, defend our borders.
So, Congressman, Congressman Paul, and I'd like you to take 30 seconds to answer this. You're basically saying that we should take our marching orders from Al-Qaeda. If they want us off the Arabian Peninsula, we should leave?
No. I'm saying we should take our marching orders from our Constitution. We should not go to war. We should not go to war without a declaration. We should not go to war when it's an aggressive war. This is an aggressive invasion. We've committed the invasion of this war, and it's illegal under international law. The American people didn't go in. A few people advising this administration, a small number of people called the neoconservatives, hijacked our foreign policy. They're responsible, not the American people. They're not responsible. We shouldn't punish them.
Congressman, we are one nation. We can't be divided. We have to be one nation under God. That means if we make a mistake, we make it as a single country, the United States of America, not the divided States of America.
When we make a mistake, it is the obligation of the people through their representatives to correct the mistake, not to continue the mistake.
And the question was asked in the chat room, how can man be free and independent? Well, that's a good question. I can say that a man can be free and independent when he does not have to ask for permission to build his home or his shelter, when he does not have to beg for food for his family. Man can be free and independent when he can keep everything that he earns, when he is free to spend it as he wishes, when he is no longer burdened with the demands of the state and the many to satisfy the needs of a woeful few. But I feel, as bleak as it seems, as dark as the times seem, there is light on the horizon. There is light at the end of the tunnel, and the end of the beginning, I feel, has passed, and the beginning of the end has begun. And the times, they are a-changing. You just can't beat a good harmonica, can you? Good old Dylan, indeed, cracking song. And if you like that and you like Dylan, then you're going to love this. See if you can name this song. This is one of Dylan's earlier songs, one of his very, very early songs. I reckon Philip Makes Movies will be on it like a shot. But 10 points to whoever can give me the name of this one. Nice little gem there. Stumbled across that purely. Just looking on the YouTube really for some protest songs, and I stumbled across that one. Nice little gem there. Yeah, really, really controversial for the time. I think it was like 60 something. It was in the 60s. So really hard hitting there. Really sort of down into the bone. Well, yeah, it's been a strange one, really. It's I've spent this last week since the last show, anyway, doing a lot of thinking and trying to coalesce ideas and sentiments and feelings and sort of sift through those things that those weeds in my mind and in my life that need to be uprooted and those positive things in my life and that could be in my life that need to be planted or tended to. So many different things going on in so many different directions at the moment. I mean, there's the November the 5th march down in London, which I'm quite keen on going down to, actually. I've been informed by Paul that there is a National Express bus that goes from somewhere in Manchester, I forgot where he said it was now, for £12 return, which is pretty damn good, especially considering it's almost, you're probably talking close to 70 odd quid on the train return. But then again, you know, so if there's a group of people who feel like they want to go down to London November the 5th, I know I want to. I'd be more than happy to meet up with a few of yous and go down there and see what's going to go down. Could be interesting. I know I'm going to be wearing a band on my arm with a red cross on it. I'm going to be going down as making sure that I'm clearly marked as a medic. Maybe that will spare me from truncheons if it all goes off. Doubtful, but it could always do. I am genuinely going to take down, if I do go down, I am genuinely going to take down some medical first aid equipment with me. I do have first aid training, so you know, it's not just going to be for my own protection, but I am going to actually apply myself to that task as well. Hopefully it won't be needed, but it might do, you never know. And I know there's saying in the chat room now 26th, 28th in London. I'm not sure what that is, if that's a protest or something. But it just goes to highlight, you know, there's all sorts of things going on. Also, November the 5th, if you didn't already know, is election day for the presidential election in America. Funnily enough, ironically, all the days they chose to have the election, November the 5th. Interesting choice. I wonder if that was an accident or whether that was a premeditated choice. And if it was premeditated, why would they choose November the 5th? Maybe it would be to distract from any kind of event that would occur on November the 5th. I think that would probably be the reason. They go, well, if there is going to be a big movement this year, then chances are it's going to be November the 5th. After all, that Guy Fawkes mask has been splattered all over the internet and every which way through Anonymous and all these different things. So, yeah, that probably is the reason why they've chosen November the 5th, to create a distraction. I was going to say something then, and it's completely gone out of my mind. Things that have been happening, yeah, and so I've been trying to, figure out what sort of direction I'm going in my life. And with the discovery of this Middlewood Trust and the people there, turns out I've been told that Scotland, apparently, especially in certain counties, Argyll is one of them, they are becoming a bit worried about the population levels in the countryside of Scotland, to the point where they are actually encouraging people to move into the countryside, to repopulate the countryside. I think there's grants available and whatnot. The chap who runs Middlewood Trust is looking into acquiring some land. Well, he doesn't run Middlewood Trust, sorry, but he's a big player in the Middlewood Trust. He said he's looking at getting some land in Scotland, and apparently they are more than happy for earthship houses to be built. Now, I know I've mentioned earthships a few times on the show before, at least I think I have. I've certainly thought it whilst I've been on air. Whether I voiced it or not, I don't know. Just a little bit, yeah. Well, if you want to know about earthships a bit more, in more detail than I could probably tell you, and probably in a much more interesting fashion, there's a documentary about the guy who basically came up with earthships, the father of earthships. It's called Garbage Warrior. I repeat, Garbage Warrior. It's about an hour and 20 odd minutes long. You can get the full version of it on YouTube. Highly recommend it as a watch. Very inspiring film, and it really shows what earthships are and what they can do. There's a line in the film where he's walking, saying, "Well, I'm free. I have a house that maintains a stable temperature all year round, that grows food, that treats its own water, and I can generate my own electricity. I'm completely disconnected from the grid. I don't have any outlaying costs to pay out. I am completely free. All my time is my own. And just the way he was describing that and saying that, it just made me sigh and think, oh, wow. That would just be amazing to know that every minute of the day is yours, to do with what you wish. There is no pressure for you to slave away for a wage. There's no demands coming in from any company or people, anyone, for money. And you're free, completely free to do as you wish and as you please. Fantastic. Couldn't think of a better way to live, really. So one of the conclusions I've come to is that I think I'm going to be dedicating as much of my time as possible towards that endeavour. I think the best way I can secure a decent, healthy, wholesome future for my son until he is of age to take command of his own life. I think to get an Earthship, to get into that state of existence where we're off-grid, we're self-sufficient, self-sustaining, with no master, but your own, yourself, is the best thing I can do for him. The best thing I can do for him and his future. And when he becomes of age, he can decide what he wants to do with his life, whether he wants to join the grid or whether he wants to get an Earthship of his own. And I don't know, hopefully by the time he's 18, 18 years from now, crikey, I can't even, I begin to fathom what the world's going to be like in the next 2 years, 3 years, 4, let alone 18. 18 years from now, God. I don't know whether I shudder or smile to think of it. I don't know. I hope it's going to be a better world. But if it isn't a better world, I could at least do my son the favour of putting him in that situation where he's going to be better suited to deal with anything that comes our way. The money you'd save from being 18 years off the grid, yeah. It's a lot of money. Thank you very much, Rob Freeman, for posting that, and for Philip makes for Rob for posting that link. That is the one. That is definitely the one. That video sort of ends around about 2007. There are other videos you can get, like the seminars you can get that he does from 2009. Goes really into detail about the houses themselves. That documentary sort of shows the sort of things he had to come up against as well in regards of the law. Also, it's worth checking out the videos they did of when they went to Haiti after the big earthquake in Haiti. They flew over there and showed them how to build a very basic, simple Earthship. And the gratitude that they had from the people of Haiti for doing that, and for, their enthusiasm was overwhelming for a start, because this was something that they could do themselves very easily, and the materials they use is all, recycled. Virtually 90% of it is recycled material, easily accessible material. And once you've learned how to build one, you can easily teach other people how to do it. It becomes a self-fulfilling, it becomes a self-growing endeavor, and it can spread, it can go viral, so to speak. And also the design that they used was extremely Earthships are extremely earthquake resistant, and as the case in Haiti, hurricane resistant as well, because of the shape. They're all very rounded. And they're extremely earthquake resistant. In fact, when they were building Earthships in Chile, they went down to Chile in South America to build Earthships, and when the Chilean army suddenly turned up one day, quite angry, what are you doing? What are you building here? Who have you asked for permission? When they explained what they were doing to the Chilean army, they weren't not only were they happy with what they were doing, but they were so impressed with the sturdiness of how strong the main structure with the compact tile walls were of these airships, that they started building their own military bunkers using the airship design with compacted earthen tires. They were that impressed with it. So wherever they've gone with it, whatever country they've gone with it, they've had nothing but positive replies back from it. You know what I mean? Good feedback. Anyway, here's a bit of comic relief from a favourite comedian of mine, Hugh Laurie. And this is Hugh Laurie's attempt at a Bob Dylan-esque protest song. Yes, and that was Hugh Laurie with his attempt at a protest song. I love that. A bit of Fry and Laurie that's from, actually. And I used to love that show when I was a kid. Absolutely loved it. But none of the kids at school ever got it, really. I think it was... I always tried to explain... I remember at school I used to try and explain these jokes, repeat the jokes from a little bit of Fry and Laurie. And just how unresponsive 9-year-olds can be is in the face of just a bit of wordplay is a bit disheartening, really. But anyway, hopefully, I really hope I can raise my son to be able to understand humour like a bit of Fry and Laurie by the time he's 9 years old. I really hope he can, but you know, I'm not going to hold it against him if he doesn't. Yeah, just to remind you, by the way, you are listening to
Alrighty then.
You're listening to Critical Mass Radio. This is Peace of Mind. Me, your host, Miquel Llobera.
But I am used to attain omnipresent supergalactic oneness.
Indeed. So, folks, after my ramblings of airships and that lot, I noticed there's a bit of a chat in the going on in the chat room on building and measuring. A comment was that you don't see a spider. You never see a spider with a tape measure. That's true, but they do measure. They do actually measure. And it's funny you should bring up the spider, because there is a spider. I've called him Charlie. He lives. Well, actually, I haven't seen him for a few days. I think he got pissed off because his web just kept getting. I mean, he was a very ambitious spider, really, because sort of the back conservatory. We've got this like small attachment conservatory to the back of the house. When you open the back door, there's a handrail on the right. Now, he'd sort of built his web in the corner of this, on the outside corner of this conservatory, with one strand stretching far off to the corner of the bungalow building, and another strand, anchor strands, spread all the way down to the handrail, and with the actual web itself in the corner of this building. Now, those two, each of those two, I know the anchor rails going to the corner of the house must have been 3 meters? Easy 3 meters. And the anchor thread going down to the handrail, about 1 meter. And then right next to the corner of the conservatory building, all the rest of the web. And it must have been, that web must have come down in the wind or from whatever 3 or 4 times, probably four times. I know 3 times. In the morning, I went out to have a cigarette in that conservatory, only to see, to watch the spider. It was always the same time every morning as well, to see him rebuilding the web. I don't know if any of you have ever watched a spider in real life. Make a web. It's fascinating, and I just sat there for ages watching him measure out. And they do actually measure out. They release a thread. They sort of pull out a thread, and the legs go out, and then they make a little measurement before slapping it down. And then when they get to the next section, they take out the thread, and then you can literally see them measuring it out. When you catch it and you understand what it is they're doing, it's amazing. They are actually creating their own measure sticks. It's genius. Yeah, his web went down a few days ago, and it's not gone back up since. I think he just got fed up. I think he was like, it's a bad idea. I mean, to be fair, by the end of the day, he'd always had a good catch. And I know the last time his web was up, he caught a really nice, big, juicy fly. So I reckon he's just filled himself up, or she has filled himself up on that big bug. And he thought, well, sorry, I don't need to eat now for ages, so no point going through all that bother to build the web. So he was a persistent bugger. I'll give him that. But it paid out in the end. Maybe there's a lesson to us all there, you know. We have to live with the webs we weave. But if we're persistent enough, a big juicy fly just might land in our midst. And on that note, here is a single that's out now, popular music-wise, but it's a good song, and it's been requested by my beautiful wife and sometime co-host Vicky. This is Mumford & Sons, Babel. And that was Mumford & Sons, Babel. I think that album Babel is referring to Babel as in the Tower of Babel. Babylonian sort of jobby symbology going on there, I think. Whether they have that intentionally, I'm pretty sure they do. I'm not sure how rebellious the Mumford & Sons are, really. I'm not sure what their score is, socially speaking. What angle they're coming from. But they do make a good tune. They do have good melodies. Got to give them that. Yeah. So running out of steam a bit here, folks. To be honest, with a baby and that, and he has been fussing today. God, he's been fussing today. He has been kicking off. He's driven Vicky to the edge of reason today. He really has. But he's finally settled down. So I think I'm going to start rounding things down, to be honest. It is 1:45 now, so I've only got about 10 minutes anyway. So I'm going to play a song I wanted to play tonight. I definitely wanted to play tonight, and this song really was in reference to the fact that when I went to protest outside Barclays, good month ago now, the other month, good few weeks ago, it sort of like made me laugh how the police, when they turned up, they didn't say anything or do anything. They just marched straight into the bank and just posted themselves on the inside of the bank, on the entranceway. Didn't say a word, just posted themselves there, protecting the bank. And it was interesting. Well, I did try and say to them, you should, arrest criminals, so they should turn around and go to the head of that bank and ask him to point into the way. Homebrew just said his point was about measurement, though. After all that spider talk, because when we started measuring, we started counting, and then we know what happened next. Greed. Funnily enough, actually. Descartes, I don't know if you know who he is. He's considered to be the founding father of modern science. Ask any scientist, who's the founding father of modern day science? Descartes. Or Descartes. He was a philosopher as well as a scientist. But funnily enough, even though scientists hail him as the first ever real, true scientist who laid it all down and founded modern science, the way in which he came about to do this was he was actually, when he was a young man, he was a mercenary, sellsword. And he was part of an army that was put together to send to Bavaria, no, sorry, not Bavaria, to Bohemia, to Prague, in order to quell the Bohemian Revolution that was going on there. There was a Bohemian movement. I forget the name of the king and queen. There was a young king and queen in Prague at the time, and they were really putting a lot of effort and time into alchemy and the alchemical dream, and it was a time of great spiritual and psychological progression, consciousness progression in Europe at the time, especially in the era that we're talking about. And a lot of the elites of the time didn't like what was going on there, so they assembled a massive army, sent over to Prague to kill, to put down this thing called Bohemia that was going on. And it was successful, and Descartes was actually part of the army that went against Prague. But on the way back from that campaign, and it's written in his diary. It's actually written in his diary. I forget where they have his diary now. I forget which museum has it, but it says in his diary that on the way back from that campaign, he had a dream, and in that dream, he was visited by an angel. And the angel said to him, you shall conquer nature, and you shall conquer nature by measurement and number. And he woke up from that dream, and from then on, he set about, measurement and number began to create what we know today as the modern scientific method. And I just find it very ironic that modern science was founded on a dream by an angel. The beautiful irony. But anyway, back to the banks. And they know what you're talking about with police protecting banks, especially in Zurich. Right then, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, thank you very much for listening, giving me your ears, your attention, and your energy for these last 2 hours. Please stay tuned for Paul Giovanni, patron saint of Critical Mass Radio, who's coming on next. I'm sure he's going to have an interesting show as usual, but please be patient with him, as I believe he's having trouble with his internet. So, without further ado, once again, thank you, and I hope, until I see you again next week, you have a positive, constructive week, and that, like myself, you take ever so slightly more steps towards achieving omnipresent in super intergalactic oneness. Thank you, and good night.
You're listening to Critical Mass Radio. Now it's our turn.